The gloomy sky covers the sun, a line of people follows each other towards the tall castle, the demonic path Vo Lam Min, also known as the Demon Palace. The man sighed softly, wow, crowded as ants. The man standing next to him with a light-colored goatee squinted, of course, how could it be otherwise? It said that as long as you have talent, regardless of your death door sect origin, you can be taught the demonic path martial arts. This is a once-in-a-millennium opportunity. What madman would miss? The other man scoffed, damn, if I were younger, would definitely try to squeeze in and give it a shot. The man with the goatee was suddenly surprised, but... From the crowd, he noticed a young teenager standing out. Was there a murder or something? The other man raised his eyebrow. What death is there here? The demon appraisal assembly hasn't even started yet. What nonsense are you talking about? He looked worried, but... He noticed the young man, who had been standing still a moment ago, his face darkening, head down. What's wrong with that little corpse collector? He tightened the straps of the wooden box on his back, looked up at the sky. Her pupils flashed red, containing deep resentment. Everything officially starts now, Grandpa. The young teenager was just a tiny child, like a 5-year-old, curled up in the thick snow. Bu Yunseal, that's the precious name you gave me. The old man with a benevolent face stepped forward and smiled gently, reaching out his hand to the little boy, a child abandoned in the ice. I took you in and raised you, I followed you, a corpse collector, to learn this trade. Yunseal sat next to him, watching him intently as he healed others. You look just like a swift sword master. The other man chuckled softly. Oh, why do you think so? His eyes widened, his cheeks flushed red. Even though this profession is hard and despised by people, I've never cared. Although you are skinny, your calves are unusually firm, the muscles in front of the shin, that's the mark of the swift sword master. He suddenly ruffled his head, making him freeze. You have sharp eyes. He smiled kindly, happily praising him. This child is truly a born corpse collector. He pursed his lips, his eyes sparkling, looking at him. No matter how difficult it is, I will always have you by my side, until that fateful day comes. The moonlight shone down on the old mattress in the dilapidated room. He gently pulled back the blanket and sat up. The bamboo rose intertwined motionless under the night sky. Suddenly, a strong wind blew, causing them to sway. He turned his head slightly and glanced out the window, his face full of thought. He closed his eyes, lowered his head slightly. The good do not come, those who come are not good, indeed it is true. He gently shook him. Seol, wake up a little, son. He patted his shoulder. Come here and play dead with me. Yunseal rubbed his sleepy eyes. How can I play at this hour? He said softly, if you do well this time, I will buy you the striding art outfit and the clear Dao sword you've always dreamed of. His eyes lit up happily. Really, Grandpa? He confirmed. Yes, really. Yunseal smiled happily, crawled into the wardrobe. Yes. He squinted gently outside, reminding him, this time you have to try to endure until sunrise. Yunseal was surprised. Yes, until sunrise. He did not answer, closed the wardrobe door tightly. His hand clenched the sword sheath so tightly that the veins stood out. He cautiously stepped out of the house. His eyes were full of vigilance and murderous intent, hiding pretty well, just like rats. A hooded figure holding a sword appeared, isn't it? His robes dragged under the bright moonlight. Oh, 7 fingers demonic blade, Bu Janyang. He frowned sternly. It's been a long time since someone called me by that name. The assassin's red pupils were revealed from under the veil. I didn't expect the one who resolutely refused the vice leader's seat of the Demon Palace. He screamed maniacally, holding his sword rushing towards him. Yet you are willing to do this lowly job to make a living. 2 swords collided, creating a dazzling light and murderous intent. I am a corpse collector. Janyang glared, not to make a living, but to atone for sins. The other person was stunned, his eyes full of resentment and madness looking at him. Janyang frowned. If you want my old life, just take it, but let's go somewhere else, lest we disturb the people around here. The other man stepped back, bowed his head and chuckled. He put his hands on his hips, turned and left. Okay, but don't even think about escaping. Janyang narrowed his eyes, his face full of thought. From inside the house came a soft noise. The tall wardrobe shook back and forth. Yunseal breathed a sigh of relief, pushed the wardrobe door to the ground. He bit his lip and cried, shivering, hugging his arms. I can't stand it anymore. Even with the magic outfit and the Dao sword, I'm freezing to death. He suddenly noticed. Grandpa. Yunseal staggered out. Where did you go? Normally you would wait for me. Could it be that you were called away by the people in the manor? Yunseal closed his eyes in dissatisfaction, opened the door of the house. Honestly, those people never valued corpse collectors. Suddenly, Yunseal froze, his pupils contracted. The scene outside was desolate, strangely devastated. A strong gust of wind blew, causing him to look blankly at the sky. Yunseal felt worried and swallowed hard. He mustered his strength and ran quickly into the bamboo forest. Yunseal's footsteps gradually slowed. Then he stood frozen in place. Yunseal's eyes widened, and tears welled up. Before him, his grandfather's body was battered, his hair disheveled, his eyes closed tightly and bleeding. Yunseal screamed. His grandfather was leaning against a tree trunk, both arms broken. "Grandfather," he collapsed beside him. "Grandfather, what happened to you?" Janyang spoke with difficulty. "Yunseal, is that you?" He sobbed in terror. "Yes, it's me, grandfather. What happened?" His grandfather whispered with effort. "I'm sorry, my dear." Blood flowed from Janyang's eyes, and he calmly resigned himself. This old man must be taking a step ahead. As he spoke, he coughed up blood. "If I die, don't forget to pray for me." Yunseal turned pale. "Grandfather." He was wide-eyed with fear, hurriedly supporting his grandfather. "Grandfather, don't talk anymore." Janyang slumped forward. "Yunseal, listen carefully." He leaned weakly against his hand, exhausted. "Never, ever think about revenge." Yunseal's eyes filled with tears. He gritted his teeth in indignation. Yunseal roared, his eyes wild with murderous intent, unwilling to accept it. "They brought you to this state, I absolutely cannot forgive them." Yunseal clung to his grandfather's clothes. "Otherwise," he buried his head in the only relative in his life, "otherwise just let me go with you. You used to say that the underworld is no different from the mortal world. Instead of living in the mortal world without you, I'd rather go to the underworld with you." Janyang closed his eyes, his expression softening. He gritted his teeth in pain. This old man thought he could pass away peacefully. Janyang whispered, "Yunseal, this is my last request, leave this place, go far away." And he raised his head to look at him, his kind face smiling gently. "I have been very happy with you during these days." Yunseal's eyes widened, his pupils contracted as his grandfather's body collapsed. His body slipped from his hands. Janyang fell limply to the ground. Yunseal sat motionless, his face pale. "Grandfather." Janyang lay still and motionless. Yunseal's eyes widened, filled with anguish. Tears gradually stopped, he narrowed his eyes, his pupils darkening. Yunseal pursed his lips, his face expressionless as he turned away. He brought Janyang's body back home. "Grandfather." Yunseal caressed his grandfather's face. His pupils gradually turned red. "But I can't listen to you." His face was filled with hatred, tears streaming down uncontrollably again. In his mind, he saw the image of his grandfather being attacked, his two arms clearly severed by a single sword stroke. He simulated the fight in his mind. Moreover, it was a sword move slashing upwards from below, extremely rare. Yunseal used his hands to pry open his grandfather's eyelids. Not only that. The image of Janyang being directly targeted by murderous intent was vividly imprinted in his imagination. The murderer even changed moves halfway to stab straight into both eyes. Yunseal gritted his teeth in resentment. Such a strange sword technique, it must be. When he opened his eyes, his jet-black pupils had contracted with overwhelming hatred. Yunseal held his grandfather's legs, his face darkened. The sword technique of the demonic path, among which the martial art that can cause such injuries, must be the India yoga art, a technique of controlling bones and muscles at will. He carefully examined his grandfather's body. The back of Janyang was covered with slashes and small round wounds, the whole back too. There were a total of 93 hidden weapons. Even with the sky-obscuring flower rain, a maximum of only 66 hidden weapons can be launched. In his mind, he redrew the image of that time, the masked man shooting needles at his grandfather from behind. It didn't look like there were accomplices. Could this be a hidden weapons of the evil emperor that can launch hundreds of needles at once? Yunseal pulled out his grandfather's tongue, moreover the area under the tongue. Janyang's fingernails seemed to have a strange evil energy seeping inside, and the inside of the fingernails were discolored. Yunseal glared, realizing something horrifying. This was a sign of being poisoned by the extremely potent flesh-rot blood failure poison. His mind drifted into a haze of the information he had just gathered. He used the hidden weapons of the evil emperor, considered the best in the world. And he also used the flesh-rot blood failure poison, a terrifying master of the demonic path. There couldn't be many like him. Yunseal closed his eyes. Definitely. The image of Janyang lying motionless gradually faded away. "Go." He slowly closed his eyes and calmed down. When Yunseal opened his eyes again, blood streamed from their sockets. "I will definitely find you." Tears falling on the thin page seeped down beside the name written neatly in black ink. He bowed his head and registered before the gates of the Martial Arts Alliance. The gatekeeper, hands on his hips, leaned towards him, sneering. "Sin Yang sect, what nameless, insignificant sect is that? Probably just a bunch of small fry clinging to the demonic sect, scared to death by the life-or-death contract." He frowned and shouted irritably, "Hey kid, if you don't dare to sign, don't waste my time, go home. He slowly raised his finger, the gatekeeper glanced at him. Yunseal's pupils turned blood red, he bit and tore the tip of his finger. The two gatekeepers were completely stunned by the sight. Yunseal forcefully pressed his finger down, from the moment he died, my life has completely collapsed. When he lifted his hand, a dark red fingerprint stood out on the paper, the only thing left was the path of revenge. The two guards looked at the registration book, then watched him leave, and so, this tournament. The man who had just been mocking him was now completely stunned, his mouth hanging open. Yunseal tightened his grip on the strap, his eyes filled with hatred, and stepped through the gates of the Martial Arts Alliance. It was the first step on that path. Like two different Taiji King swords, the proud golden dragon and the fierce black tiger growled at each other, the orthodox path and the demonic path. The battle between the two powerful forces dominating the Murim had lasted for centuries. Heroes were written in history books, and heretics were recorded on paper in contrasting colors. The orthodox path, headed by the Murim Alliance leader, used justice as its guiding principle. The demonic path gathered around the demonic sect, only worshipped ultimate power. The two forces had long maintained a balance. Peace would disappear when one side wanted to rise up and demand more. The orthodox path craved to break that balance. The bright blue sky shone down on a chaotic world. Therefore, the 18 Alliance Masters, representing the orthodox path, were honored as the great, righteous warriors. At the same time, darkness also produced powerful individuals who felt threatened by the Murim Alliance's restraint. The demonic sect also sought to consolidate its power and immediately launched the 10 Demonic Disciples plan. A scroll of announcement was issued. Regardless of origin, the demonic sect would impart all of its secret, practical martial arts to the 10 most outstandingly talented individuals. This audacious offer, regardless of sect, teaching martial arts of the demonic path, Yunseal's eyes filled with even more determination. The doors opened, and facing him were over 100 people who had been waiting. It had attracted countless young people in the Murim to the demonic sect. Inside, there were all kinds of people, all giving him unfriendly looks. Everyone in the room turned to pay attention to the newcomer. Yunseal pulled on the strap and silently looked around. Among them, there were many who had a strange feeling. Suddenly, he noticed a point in this crowd. His eyes seemed to want to see through each person. Could there be anyone related to the culprit who killed his master? The mysterious figure beneath the assassin's mask. Yunseal pursed his lips, thoughtfully pondering. It must be a deep, unfathomable master. He unconsciously reached out his hand as if that person were right in front of him. To avenge him, I must reach that level, but right now, I have no sect, no martial arts. His eyes filled with hatred, he clenched his fist. Becoming one of the 10 demonic disciples is the only way to quickly become strong. Suddenly, the people around him were all surprised, stunned, ah. A tall, imposing man wearing a white fur coat appeared. He shouted fiercely, "This one is the head instructor, Hyok Ryanyoung, head instructor, Golden Claw, Blood Eyes Hyok Ryanyoung." Those below were amazed, chattering noisily. The head instructor, is that really the Golden Claw, Blood Eyes head instructor? Ryanyoung glared, this place is to find the #1 prodigy of the demonic path. His words shocked those below. Only those who pass all the trials set by the demonic sect are qualified to become official candidates for the 10 demonic disciples. Yunseal silently glanced at him. The first trial. Ryanyoung waved his hand. People from the Medicine King Hall will examine your tendons and bones. The group of people below started shouting again, wait, does this count as a challenge? How can we, let us have a martial arts competition instead. The men in black robes and straw hats quickly stepped forward, twisting the applicants' bodies, causing them to groan in pain. He said in a deep voice, you've passed, come here. The applicant whose bones were just broken looked bewildered. Ah, yes, on second thought, maybe we don't need a martial arts competition, do we? Yunseal silently watched. If you pass, will you be transferred to the next stage, tendons and bones? Huh. He stood still. He's here. The man reached out to him. He grabbed one of Yunseal's shoulders. The soldier gasped in astonishment. No way. He gripped Yunseal's elbow tightly. His tendons and bones are completely ruined. The soldier lowered his head, his heart full of confusion. It's strange that he can participate in this tournament, but Yunseal was silent, his eyes full of hatred lit up with murderous intent. He raised his eyebrows, subconsciously avoided it. This murderous aura alone is rare to find someone who can compare. He pretended to cough and turned to leave, but still couldn't let it go. Yunseal pursed his lips, as expected. He put his hand on his shoulder and massaged it, just like the old man taught him. What I've learned so far is just corpse washing techniques. I can't overcome this challenge. Yunseal lowered his hand, but I can't stop here. The bright sunlight shone down on the arena. A loud shout rang out. the first challenge has ended. A certain boy gritted his teeth. What? He glared, veins popping on his forehead, roaring, what kind of rule is this? He confronted Ryan. If you only choose demonic path successors based on tendons and bones, then what's the point of organizing this tournament? He shouted loudly, this is unfair. The other person bowed his head, unfair. Ryan slowly explained the nature of the human body. The most important factor for martial arts training is tendons and bones. The demonic sect organizes tournaments to recruit talents everywhere for that reason. He looked down. How dare you demand fairness here when you can't even meet the most basic requirement of tendons and bones? He froze, his momentum halved, but at least give me a chance to. Ryan glared. The other person was staggered by his aura. Don't worry. Ryan exuded a powerful aura, overwhelming him. In the second challenge, I will choose talents who, despite their weak tendons and bones, still have the ability to practice outstanding martial arts. He turned and left. The second challenge will begin now. Ryan turned his head and glanced back warningly. From now on, you will slaughter each other. His words confused everyone with eyes, to win the position of the survivor. The Dongjing gang were scared. Slaughter each other. We are all people of the demonic path. What a strange challenge. Is it real? The man from earlier tightened his grip on his weapon. Humph, so that's how it is. He glared viciously. Okay, sooner or later I'll have to kill. He set his sights on Yunseal not far away. Veins bulged on the back of his hand. He tightened his grip on his weapon. Wei Yunqing tightly grasped the shaft of his spear. He rushed forward like lightning. Then decisively launched the spear towards him. Then, Wei Yunqing revealed a smile as if releasing all the pressure, saying, today I can kill you. On Red Dragon's side, Red Dragon's whole body was bleeding incessantly. He gritted his teeth and shouted, Wei Yunqing. However, a second later, he couldn't hold on and fell to the ground with a thud. Seeing him lying motionless on the ground with wide eyes, the people around him exclaimed in fear, he's really dead. Blood, too much blood. Bu Yunseal lowered his eyes to observe Red Dragon's corpse, secretly commenting, truly wonderful. The blade slipped through the ribs, hitting the heart. The footwork is not perfect, but he is quick and has good reflexes. On the other side, the man Wei Yunqing pulled the spear out of Red Dragon's corpse, confidently shouted a declaration of war. Whoever wants to be stabbed through like him, come at me. I, Wei Yunqing, will accept the challenge. Hyok Ryan on the high platform observed everything, and spoke, assessing him. His action ability is not bad, but it seems he is the kind with no brains. As expected, they are all useless trash. The subordinate next to him agreed, you are so right. Then, he secretly analyzed the situation in his heart. In this situation, showing off that you are dangerous is no different from turning yourself into a target for the whole group. Anyway, the others will attack. At this time, everyone below was gradually becoming panicked. What should we do if this continues? A man started to attack at this moment. He slashed hard at another person, shouting, die. However, a second later, he suddenly became frightened, stuttering as he backed away, I didn't mean to. Unexpectedly, in the next second, the man was stabbed in the stomach by another person. Hyok Ryan observed them from above with a cold gaze. Amidst the continuous screams of pain, he calmly thought, these children are not yet accustomed to death. Below, there was no shortage of faces terrified to the point of panic, or life and death battles. The scene had become extremely chaotic. Hyok Ryan continued to think to himself, reason is easily paralyzed by the fear of death. Just then, he suddenly saw something. Hyok Ryan put his hand to his mouth and exclaimed softly with interest. His subordinates also looked in the direction he was looking, and smiled, and exclaimed oh. It turned out they had just discovered a man with Bu Yunseal. The subordinate commented, not everyone is a fool. Amidst the people fighting for survival, only Bu Yunseal and the man calmly leaned against the wall. Looking at the scene of death before him, Bu Yunseal with disdain, thought to himself, these idiots, letting the fear of death paralyze their reason. Hyok Ryan said they had to survive until there was only one person left, so the important thing was not killing but surviving. Thinking this, he suddenly sat down, reaching out towards the corpse, saying to himself, if I can maintain my composure and act rationally, I can survive. I must survive. As he said this, the image of himself and Bu Janyang examining corpses appeared in Bu Yunseal's mind. In reality, he grabbed the severed arm of the corpse and began to examine it. In the arena, a man in blue, using a flail, was gaining the upper hand. Quickly, the dead lay scattered on the ground, making it easy for him to notice Bu Yunseal in the distance. What's that? That guy looks like nothing, must be trying to sneak away. And he was still focused on examining the corpse. The sword wounds were thin but dense, killed by fast swordsmanship combined with a soft sword. At the same time, the man in blue had locked on to the target. he swung the flail in his hand and muttered, "Let me send you on your way." The iron ball flew towards Bu Yunseal like lightning. However, it only hit the box on his back. The box shattered, causing the neatly folded clothes to fall out. The man in blue saw it and pointed and laughed, mockingly asking, "Huh, what, that box, are you a mortician?" Bu Yunseal's face darkened, he slowly stood up. In his mind, he suddenly remembered his past self with his eyes wide open. Bu Yunseal at that time had carefully touched the clothes on the table with the small letter. He opened the letter, which read only 4 words, "Happy Birthday." Thinking back to that time, Bu Yunseal softly exclaimed, "Dad." A second later, his eyes turned red with murderous intent. Bu Yunseal and the man in blue now made direct eye contact. He once again swung the flail in his hand, disdainfully exclaiming, "What is this? What can you do with that sword?" But this man didn't know that a shadow was secretly appearing behind him. The man straightaway struck a blow to the man in blue's back. In the blink of an eye, he fell to the ground. After that, the man took the initiative to say to him, "No need to thank me, with a useless guy like you attracting attention, it's easier for me to act." But Bu Yunseal didn't pay attention to him, but only focused on examining the corpse of the man in blue. The man smiled and commented on him, "I see you have a good eye, but it seems you haven't learned any martial arts." While he was speaking, someone wanted to attack him from behind, but he didn't even bother to look, directly swinging his sword behind him to deal with him, still smiling, "A waste like you, I can take down any time." Bu Yunseal didn't answer, coldly glancing back. On the high platform, Hyok Ryanyoung began to be curious about that man, that kid, he's holding the Sukjong, who is he that he possesses a relic of Black Soul, the one called the number 1 wandering swordsman. The subordinate next to him immediately reported, "His name is Nung Wongang, it is said that he found the secret and the sword that Black Soul left in a deep mountain cave. But because he learned the sword from his secrets his moves haven't really mastered it." Hyok Ryanyoung continued to observe Nung Wongang's technique, saying, "Anyway, he has grasped Black Soul's true teachings, so he can be considered his disciple. Although his physique is somewhat inferior, he is still a promising candidate for the position of the 10th demonic successor. I think that child is the most outstanding." He highly regarded him among the people, even though he was just a kid who didn't deserve the Sukjong, "But here I'm afraid no one is stronger than him." The subordinate agreed, "That's right." He also predicted the outcome, if there are no unexpected events, then he will be the last survivor. Below, Bu Yunseal was still diligently examining the corpses. Under the dark sky, the continuous screams of misery rang out, further increasing the gloom. After a long time, Nung Wongang wiped his sword and said, as expected. His eyes were extremely sharp, looking directly at the target and continued, "You have survived to the last minute." At that moment, amidst the scattered corpses, only Bu Yunseal and Nung Wongang remained. He cracked his knuckles expectantly, saying, "Just defeat you, and I'll become a candidate for the 10-demon successor, come on." He, on the other hand, didn't react at all, just stood still in place. Bu Yunseal's eyes coldly stared at him, thinking inwardly, "He's the strongest on the arena, but I've already discovered his weakness." Bu Yunseal slowly stepped forward, holding his sword. Nung Wongang looked up, waiting, "Let's see what you've got." As soon as he finished speaking, he gathered momentum, preparing to charge. He unleashed many different strikes towards him, but even though he dodged, he still got hit. This made Nung Wongang extremely amused and contemptuous. "All you can do is clumsily dodge like this, it's a miracle you've survived until now." He observed and thought, "On the surface, it looks like you're being overwhelmed, but if you look closely." He seemed to realize his scheme. He skillfully adjusted his position at the end of each attack. Bu Yunseal's clothes were torn open to avoid fatal blows, the slashes kept hitting him to the point where syrup splattered on his face. Suddenly, his pupils contracted. He memorized the attack pattern by observing the corpses killed by Nung Wongang. He secretly praised, "His observation ability is truly extraordinary." After the last few dodges, Bu Yunseal stopped and said dismissively, "Your swordsmanship is too poor." He continued in a mocking tone, attacking so fiercely, "Yet you only managed to scratch my skin." These words made him think, "He dares to provoke me like this." He clenched his fist behind his back. It's true that he's good at dodging, but counterattacking is a completely different matter. Then he looked at him, "With a body like that, it's hard to unleash a powerful attack." Nung Wongang was a little amused. "I was originally planning to let you live a little longer, but you're in a hurry to find death." Then he charged like a madman, "Then I'll grant your wish." At that speed, he got closer and closer to him. "Here it comes." Bu Yunseal wasn't afraid at all. This is the only chance. He began to recall the previous events based on what he had learned from examining the corpses killed by Nung Wongang. His eyes widened at what he saw. his ultimate move always targets the opponent's weak points. Those corpses only had 2 points of injury, the heart and the head. Therefore, when revealing his killing intent, his blade often points to the upper part of the opponent. If so, just as he unleashes a fatal kick, he'll also duck down to avoid it. This made Nung Wongang stunned. Before he could react, Bu Yunseal pointed his blade towards him. Just as he was about to aim for his neck, a familiar voice rang out, "Seol." The image of Bu Janyang appeared. The Hyol Yun. Is a place that even martial arts masters find difficult to train to. Even if a child put all their strength into hitting it, it would be enough to knock out an adult. These words made him even more confident, and he brought the blade towards him. And streams of Chinsu chili sauce begin to shoot out. Bu Yunseal already stabbed his sword straight into his neck. Nung Wongang slowly collapsed. He had been defeated. Even now, Bu Yunseal remained motionless. He looked at them and asked, "Is it over?" He stood observing and couldn't help but be surprised. "I really didn't expect that." Hyok Ryanyoung showed clear disappointment. "I had high expectations for Black Soul's swordsmanship." The sound of drums began to resonate with his voice. Bu Yunseal, Jianyang's sect, has passed the second round. He stood motionless, without any reaction. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out again, "Yunseal." It was the voice of Bu Janyang. He was looking for him. "Yunseal, where are you, Yunseal?" Seeing him, he couldn't hide his joy and called out, "Grandfather." Bu Yunseal ran towards him. "I'm here, Grandpa, Grandpa, Grandpa," but it seemed like he didn't hear Yunseal. When it was time to catch up, Bu Janyang called Yunseal again. His pupils contracted in fear. His eyes were gone when he turned around. "I can't see your face clearly." His mother's sweat, his own sweat fell together. Immediately after, Bu Yunseal sat up. Everyone turned to look at him. The silent space was only filled with the sound of rushing sea waves, and there was their boat. Bu Yunseal blankly raised his hand to his head. "This place is inside a boat, so I fainted. That's right, I lost a lot of blood." Then he looked at his bandaged wound. The wound was quite serious, but now I almost feel no pain. Surely the devil's advocate has hired a talented doctor. Then, he widened his eyes, but the eyes that had been staring at him for a while now didn't say anything. The people here were generally strong, and there were also a few familiar faces. It seemed like the people who passed the first level suddenly one of them started laughing, which caught the other's attention. As for Bu Yunseal, she sighed, her eyes filled with contempt, an understandable reaction. A person standing above shouted down, "Get in the boat." He announced in a low voice, "The next pass is this Hell Island. In the middle of the endless ocean a ship is moving on it, playing the evening sun." The ship then stopped in front of a port. From the huge ship, a person jumped into the port. This was Hell. This person, after getting off, then glanced up the train. "Everyone follow me." According to this person's words, the people on the train got off the train one by one and started to go up the mountain in front of them. It was already dusk. The girl began to instruct the people below, "These are your residences. All clothes and weapons you brought with you must be handed over, then put on the prepared clothes and swords and go out." This girl stood on high and kept speaking down to let the people below understand, "Choice is freedom. Choose the cave you want and go in." Everyone took turns choosing. Only Bu Yunseal stood still in one place. Bu Yunseal silently observed everything. Bu Yunseal's eyes were extremely gloomy. After a while of observing, Bu Yunseal started to move. As he walked, he looked at the remaining people. The two people in the distance kept whispering to each other. "This place seemed okay. I thought it would be damp, but it turned out to be quite comfortable. It was really cramped." The girl in pink turned to the person opposite and said, "I was the one who had my eyes on this place first." The man opposite was not convinced and immediately refuted, "This is absurd. I clearly came first and was just looking." "So what?" Bu Yunseal glanced over and observed. While the two were arguing, a young man walked over. "Hey, stop arguing. There are many other good places." Bu Yunseal didn't care much, thinking to herself, "These guys, they have no idea what happened at the second pass. They're completely unguarded." Bu Yunseal glanced at him with murderous eyes, thinking back. Among the people who passed the first level, there were quite a few people wearing luxurious and expensive clothes. The young man in green immediately felt guilty after hearing what the other young man said. "I said too much." The other girl had also calmed down. "No, I also wondered in my heart, could it be that most of them were descendants of famous and powerful families?" Bu Yunseal walked and thought about the torn photo. So the second gate was the place to cast out those who could be killed without any problem. At this moment, someone quietly spoke up, making Bu Yunseal startled. "She hasn't chosen yet." Bu Yunseal turned his head, his face worried, his voice a bit timid. "You've been unusually slow since a while ago. Now's not the time to be leisurely." He had a serious face and a cold voice, making Bu Yunseal startled and turn around. He looked at Bu Yunseal, thinking to himself, looking at his eyes he was suspicious, but he didn't expect him to actually survive the second test. Let's see what he will choose this time, he said with a cold voice. There's not much time left, hurry up and decide. Bu Yunseal saw his seriousness, he immediately pointed to a cave. Then let's choose that place. The cave that Bu Yunseal chose had an extremely small and narrow entrance. Seeing Bu Yunseal choose that cave, the people around kept pointing and saying, what, he actually chose that place, he really chose a place that suited his ragged appearance, so dirty. But Bu Yunseal still didn't care, her face didn't change color. Seeing Bu Yunseal like that, he just forced a smile. Bu Yunseal. He looked at the little Bu Yunseal in front of him, his smile getting wider and wider. What a genius. He looked at the cave that Bu Yunseal pointed to and felt a bit of admiration in his heart. At first glance, it just looked like a dirty, narrow cave, but that was only the entrance. The inside was wide enough to practice martial arts, and the narrow cave entrance also helped prevent surprise attacks. He turned away, thinking to himself, usually people would just look at the cave entrance and ignore it, but he was observing very carefully. He smiled. Okay, get ready now. Bu Yunseal glanced at his back. After a while everyone went to change clothes. Bu Yunseal also went to change clothes. He looked at the black spray clothes on her body. He stood at the head of the crowd above, continuously saying down, I will explain what you guys have to do from now on. Bu Yunseal heard that and only glanced at him without paying much attention. He began to talk about the rules of the competition. In this hell, there were 10 martial arts schools built, and each school could learn the martial arts of the 10 great demon schools. He tapped on the wooden board, could learn all or just learn one, the choice was free. Bu Yunseal was lost in the crowd, the people around him kept chattering to each other. The schedule was the same, sleeping was fine, playing was fine, learning martial arts was fine, it was up to you to decide. Bu Yunseal's face turned serious, and she started to think, strange, it was the ones who turned the second gate into hell, it was the ones who turned the second gate into hell. Those people kept talking and greeting each other, the atmosphere became strangely bustling. Where to go? One of them suddenly spoke up, of course it's the Hua Yu Jian sect, I heard that's the strongest sect. The others kept urging each other on, hurry up. Bu Yunseal glanced around, thinking to himself, most of them are heading in one direction, the flowing petal sword sect. Bu Yunseal started to recall what he had seen before, he'd heard it was the strongest force among the 10 great demonic paths. As Bu Yunseal walked past them, he thought to himself, learning the strongest martial arts would definitely be beneficial, but for me, who hasn't learned any martial arts at all, what I need now isn't some supreme technique. Suddenly, Bu Yunseal's eyes widened, staring intensely in one direction. Then, Bu Yunseal headed in a different direction from the others. What I need right now is. Bu Yunseal arrived at an abandoned house in the forest. Bu Yunseal stared intently at the house, his eyes dark. He looked at the desolate house, wondering, is this really a martial arts school? Bu Yunseal now began to ponder what he had surmised. The Midnight Shade sect is now just a decaying sect, barely enough to have a name among the 10 great demonic paths. But it has maintained its position thanks to having produced countless masters in the past. My grandfather used to tell me about the asterisk Mirim. Bu Yunseal said to himself, then I will. In the midst of his thoughts, he was startled and looked down at the ground. Bu Yunseal looked extremely worried, frowning as he stared at the ground. Bu Yunseal now began to observe his surroundings. From where did a person emerge from the ground? What is this? The person stuck his head up, his eyes full of murderous intent. You came here to become a successor of the 10 demons. This person is S.A. Wu, the secret hall master of the Midnight Shade sect. Bu Yunseal stood on the ground, looking at the head that was emerging from the ground. Bu Yunseal looked a little flustered, cautiously looking at the face below. After realizing who the person was, Bu Yunseal respectfully clasped his hands. Yes, I've come to learn the martial arts of the Midnight Shade sect. Bu Yunseal looked down, his expression worried. S.A. Wu's eyes were full of murderous intent, his eyes narrowed. Then S.A. Wu emerged completely from the ground. As he emerged, his face turned serious. S.A. Wu looked at Bu Yunseal, his voice cold. Don't court death, go back now. I have no intention of teaching martial arts, especially to someone as fragile as you. Bu Yunseal now answered S.A. Wu's question. I heard that if one successfully trains in your martial arts, they will obtain the most enduring life in the world. S.A. Wu descended from the ground. Not bad, you know quite a bit about this declining Wudang style. Bu Yunseal felt as if countless knives were pointed at him, but even the most talented in the world find it difficult to master the martial arts of this sect. The martial arts here begin with the transformation of the body. With your physique, you'll surely die in less than a day. S.A. Wu sank down, but his eyes were still fixed on Bu Yunseal. If you understand, then get lost. Bu Yunseal knelt down and respectfully bowed to Sa Wu. Sa Wu was puzzled by this action. What are you doing? Bu Yunseal was still kowtowing before Sa Wu. You have deigned to instruct me, so as a disciple, shouldn't I be able to kowtow to pay respects to my master? Sa Wu looked towards him, utterly confused. Crazy fool. After saying that, Sa Wu closed his eyes. He began to think, then Sa Wu said to Bu Yunseal, "Alright, I will teach you." Saying that, Sa Wu began to push himself up from the ground with both hands, but don't misunderstand, the reason I'm teaching you is only because it's an order from the demonic palace. Bu Yunseal, seeing Sa Wu's actions, don't be stunned. Sa Wu stood tall in front of Bu Yunseal. I am Sa Wu, the secret hall master of the Midnight Shade sect. From now on, call me Elder Sa. Bu Yunseal placed one hand on his chest. I am Bu Yunseal. Sa Wu raised his hand, interrupting. No. Bu Yunseal's expression was a little worried. You are just number 1 trainee. Sa Wu pointed 2 fingers towards Bu Yunseal. No need for lengthy explanations, let's start right away. Right then, 2 beams of light suddenly struck Bu Yunseal's eyes, causing them to widen. His eyes glazed over, turned black, and stared wide. Gradually, Bu Yunseal's eyes turned completely black. All around Bu Yunseal was only darkness. He stood there confused, unable to see anything. In the midst of his confusion, a voice spoke, "Don't worry," helping to calm Bu Yunseal's mind. Sa Wu now began to guide Bu Yunseal bit by bit. I've only temporarily sealed your sight with the secret technique of this sect. This is a necessary procedure to learn the basic martial arts of this sect, called the Way of the Beast. Bu Yunseal heard this and asked back, a little confused, the Way of the Beast. Sa Wu saw the confusion in Bu Yunseal's words and immediately explained, it not only maximizes all of your senses, but also helps you gain reflexes like a wild animal. Sa Wu further explained to Bu Yunseal, the pinnacle of this sect's martial arts, unlike other progressive martial arts, will change in myriad ways depending on the enlightenment of the successor. Bu Yunseal became even more panicked when he heard this, so even the basic Way of the Beast is difficult, no less than mastering another martial art. The more Bu Yunseal listened, the more his eyes revealed extreme confusion. Sa Wu kept rambling, therefore, until now, fewer and fewer people try to learn it. Sa Wu's body now emitted a strange light, so bright that it made Bu Yunseal turn away. Sa Wu continued to say to Bu Yunseal, but if you can comprehend it. A white tiger flashed brightly. Sa Wu flashed an unusual light, and said loudly to Bu Yunseal, you will gain the senses of a true wild animal. Sa Wu now smiled slightly at Bu Yunseal, but usually, they die before they even get there. Sa Wu stepped closer to where Bu Yunseal was standing. Sa Wu stood in front of Bu Yunseal like a hero silhouetted against the light. In about half an hour, you'll get used to not seeing anything. Bu Yunseal was speechless, as if frozen. The fear reached its peak when Sa Wu approached right next to Bu Yunseal. Then I'll be back. A strong gust of wind blew across this simple thatched house. Bu Yunseal had gradually adapted to not being able to see, still a bit awkward, but somewhat better. They say that when you lose your sight, the other senses become more acute, but that doesn't seem to be entirely true. Suddenly, Bu Yunseal remembered what Sa Wu had told him. Usually, it takes half an hour to adapt. Bu Yunseal moved his eyes around, mentally resolving, too slow, I have to get familiar quickly. Thinking this, Bu Yunseal quickly lay down prone, then stood up to try to feel everything, then continued to kneel and crawl on the ground. Suddenly, someone ambushed Bu Yunseal, piercing through his chest. In this place, countless martial artists aimed to become the 10 demon successors, always lurking around each other, if he were attacked in this state. Then Bu Yunseal felt someone with a weapon raising it to attack him from behind. Bu Yunseal, according to his instinct, quickly turned around. Immediately after, Bu Yunseal was knocked far away, his body completely flew into the air. Bu Yunseal landed painfully, so that's it, when you lose your sight, the important thing is balance. The sky was now dark, and the stars were crowded together, shining high above. Uncle Sa Wu took a long nap and then woke up, yawning several times as he walked outside. He must be staggering around, lost right now. But contrary to Sa Wu's expectations, Bu Yunseal was already able to move back and forth skillfully, causing Sa Wu to hum in surprise. Sa Wu looked at Bu Yunseal, his face full of thought. Interesting, usually, people would sit still, waiting for their senses to return. Sa Wu observed Bu Yunseal's actions, constantly evaluating him, but this guy imagines imaginary enemies to keep moving. Bu Yunseal stomped his foot hard on the ground. Perhaps that's why he now moved so skillfully. In just 2 steps, he had moved very far. One hand of Bu Yunseal clung to a rock, one foot kicking forward. Bu Yunseal landed on the ground, his body constantly radiating his own aura. He was now adapting faster. Seeing this, Sa Wu happily smiled contentedly. Okay, it seems you're used to it, well then, now. Sa Wu unceremoniously drew his sword from behind his back and said loudly to Bu Yunseal, try to dodge my sword. Sa Wu attacked without holding back. The entire forest was silent, with only the sound of the sword colliding with the air constantly ringing out. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Bu Yunseal was put through so much hardship that he was in terrible condition. He fell hard into a puddle of rainwater. The rain grew heavier. Sa Wu was still very calm, holding his sword slung over his shoulder, smiling at Bu Yunseal in front of him. Bu Yunseal at this time had not one piece of intact clothing. It seemed like it would end here, but no. Sa Wu once again rushed towards Bu Yunseal with great speed. Bu Yunseal was completely unable to block it, taking Sa Wu's blow directly in the stomach. Sa Wu wiped the rain off his face, staring down at Bu Yunseal in front of him. Today is the 3rd day, shouldn't he be suspicious of this training method by now, yet he just silently takes the blows. Under the rain, Bu Yunseal breathed exhaustedly, but he still tried to force himself to stand up, supporting himself with his sword, without complaining. Seeing Bu Yunseal like this, Sa Wu couldn't hide his curiosity and asked, why don't you ask anything, for example, how to dodge or a special technique? Bu Yunseal widened his eyes, looking surprised, as if he couldn't believe it. Then, Bu Yunseal tried to maintain his balance, his voice coldly continuing Sa Wu's words, you said the essence of the nightshade is an enlightenment, so I think your every action has a reason. Sa Wu heard this answer and was a bit surprised. He frowned, looking down at Bu Yunseal. Then, Sa Wu closed his eyes and smiled at Bu Yunseal, that's right, you're right. As soon as he finished speaking, Sa Wu held the sword tightly in his hand and quickly rushed towards Bu Yunseal. Then let's continue. Bu Yunseal remained calm, standing there without flinching. Bu Yunseal began to close his eyes and feel everything around him. He clearly felt Sa Wu's movement. He realized something in astonishment. I feel it. In just 3 days, Bu Yunseal had felt Sa Wu's movement. Bu Yunseal now began to feel Sa Wu's actions and attacking techniques. I don't see it anymore, the path of the sword, but I can only see it, not avoid it. Bu Yunseal lifted the sword in his hand. If so. He blocked Sa Wu's sword strike. The two swords clashed. The two faced each other directly without any hesitation. The two swords clashed, sparking. Bu Yunseal had blocked the attack. He used all his strength, gritting his teeth to resist the attack. Even Sa Wu, a veteran of many years, had to be amazed at Bu Yunseal's quick learning. Sa Wu exhaled silently. He wondered in his head. He just blocked the silent sword move. After the rain, the sky cleared, and the sun began to emerge from behind the dark clouds. Sa Wu wondered, only after 3 days. At this time, Bu Yunseal was knocked back far away, dragging a long, sparking sword trail. Bu Yunseal sat tiredly on the ground, looking up at the sky blankly. But even blocking is still difficult. While thinking, a tube of water was thrown onto Bu Yunseal's stomach. Here, drink. Bu Yunseal took the tube of water, starting to grope it. Thank you, sir. Immediately after, Bu Yunseal drank all of the bamboo water. Sa Wu just stood there looking and saying nothing. After drinking all, Bu Yunseal suddenly realized what the content was. This isn't water. His whole body suddenly overflowed with energy, as if the lost blood had been restored. This is. Sa Wu's eyes lit up as he looked at the water jug that Bu Yunseal was holding. This is the supreme spirit water that I have kept my whole life, but I don't regret it at all. Sa Wu smiled contentedly and happily at this moment, because I have waited my whole life to meet the #1 genius in the world. The rain was falling incessantly, pouring down on the roof. The attacks kept coming at Bu Yunseal, who wearily blocked them. But Sa Wu kept charging forward to attack Bu Yunseal, who didn't dodge and directly faced Sa Wu. Sa Wu smiled with a hint of satisfaction when he saw that expression. Sa Wu swung his sword across Bu Yunseal's face and shouted, once again, take this move. Bu Yunseal was stunned to hear that. Sa Wu unleashed an extremely powerful sword strike. Bu Yunseal dodged to the side, avoiding the attack. Sa Wu quickly moved behind Bu Yunseal. Not yet. Bu Yunseal's expression was strangely fearful. Bu Yunseal recognized Sa Wu's voice from behind and glanced back, his eyes filled with fear. Immediately, Bu Yunseal used his sword to attack behind him, surprising Sa Wu. Bu Yunseal didn't feel any response from the other person and was immediately confused. Isn't he attacking anymore? Seeing Bu Yunseal's expression, Sa Wu couldn't help but laugh loudly. I didn't expect the weapon I've been looking for to be right in front of me. A small light flew into Bu Yunseal's eyes, startling him. Bu Yunseal suddenly realized about his eyes. I can see again. He immediately looked at his hands. Seeing this, Sa Wu immediately called out, Bu Yunseal. Sa Wu walked over, smiling, and patted Bu Yunseal on the shoulder. Forget about things like the demonic disciple, become an official disciple of my sect. Bu Yunseal was stunned, unable to believe his ears. Bu Yunseal looked up at Sa Wu. Seeing his face like that, Sa Wu said loudly, that's right, in 10 years, I will forge you into the top martial artist in the demonic path. Bu Yunseal lowered his head, thinking to himself, become the top martial artist in the demonic path. Considering what I've witnessed so far, this offer is definitely not false, but, thinking about what had happened, the things he had to face. The murderer who killed my grandfather is definitely a master with an extremely distant martial arts realm. In that situation, just being satisfied with the martial arts of the Nong sect is not enough. Bu Yunseal pursed his lips, beginning to think about everything. Then he looked up at Sa Wu with a determined look. I will become the demonic disciple. Sa Wu's eyes revealed a look of bewilderment when he heard Bu Yunseal say that. Sa Wu stared blankly, taking a breath. If it's to comprehend all the martial arts of the 10 great demonic paths, then forget it, even a great grandmaster like the heavenly demon emperor couldn't do it. Then Sa Wu began to tell about the people who had studied before, because each martial art pursues a different body shape and fortune. Even a genius can only learn 2 or 3 at most. The shortest path to becoming the #1 martial artist in the demonic path is to devote all your energy to a single martial art. Bu Yunseal clasped his hands in front of his chest and lowered his eyes respectfully, saying, please forgive me. Seeing this, Sa Wu lowered his eyes to look at Bu Yunseal, his face not revealing any emotion. He thought to himself, he's not planning to change his decision. Thinking this, Sa Wu began to speak to Bu Yunseal. But then he stopped. Sa Wu turned his back. Alright, then from now on, learn a different martial art. These words made Bu Yunseal stunned for a few seconds. Bu Yunseal was somewhat worried and confused, saying back to Sa Wu, but I've only learned the basic martial arts of the Nong sect. Sa Wu didn't look at him, only leisurely replied, the martial arts of this sect are not passed down through oral formulas or theories. Moreover, Sa Wu turned around to look at Bu Yunseal with a glint in his eyes, then quickly attacked. Bu Yunseal reflexively raised his sword to block the attack in his own astonishment. Seeing this, Sa Wu turned around and smiled a very bright smile at Bu Yunseal. You have grasped the beast path of this sect. Then, Sa Wu put his sword back into its sheath. Bu Yunseal remembered every action of Sa Wu and suddenly understood, so the sword moves he used on me all this time were. Bu Yunseal kept thinking about the sword strikes Sa Wu had just made, the moves of the beast path. Then Bu Yunseal bowed respectfully, clasping his hands. Thank you, elder. Sa Wu clasped his hands behind his back, his voice neither heavy nor light. No need to thank me, as I said, I'm just following the orders of the demonic palace. Bu Yunseal remembered the water jug that Sa Wu had given him, but you gave me the elixirs. I will never forget this kindness in my life. Hearing this, Sa Wu bluntly said, without any hesitation, forget it. Bu Yunseal couldn't believe his ears when he heard these words. He was extremely shocked. Sa Wu said to Bu Yunseal in a serious tone, Mirim is like that, kindness or resentment, if you can forget them, it's best to forget them. Hearing this, Bu Yunseal's expression sank. He didn't say anything else, his eyes just staring at the ground. Bu Yunseal looked out at the distant mountain, then. Bu Yunseal knelt down and respectfully kowtowed to Sa Wu, I bid you farewell. The sky was clear and the white clouds were slowly drifting by. After bowing to express his gratitude, Bu Yunseal turned and left. Sa Wu just stood there, watching Bu Yunseal's receding back. Sa Wu stood in the empty forest, looking in the direction that Bu Yunseal had left. He could only laugh. I can't believe that a hidden dragon like this would appear here. Bu Yunseal continued to walk through the forest. As he walked, he observed his surroundings. On this hell island, a rain of blood will definitely rise. Bu Yunseal raised his head to look at the surrounding scenery. Perhaps because I have learned the beast path, I can feel too many things. Even when I'm not doing anything, I feel tired. Bu Yunseal looked at these things and began to analyze them. Like this, I can't rest properly, I have to learn how to adjust. Bu Yunseal clenched his fist, feeling everything with his senses. Normally, he limits his senses to the lowest level. Suddenly, a light flashed from a dewdrop on a leaf. The dewdrop slowly fell, the puddle of water below, as if blocking the flowing water. Bu Yunseal's eyes suddenly flashed, as if he had understood something. Bu Yunseal stood still, looking up at the sky. This should be enough. Bu Yunseal took out the map and looked at it in his hand. The next thing to do is. Bu Yunseal put his hand to his lips and began to contemplate what was on the map. there's no way the demonic palace is just letting people practice forever in Hell Island, maybe there isn't much time left, if so, then. After thinking for a moment, Bu Yunseal put the map back in his possession, there's no other choice. Bu Yunseal recalled the events of that year in the past, the peerless Grandmaster who was once on par with the heavenly demon emperor 700 years ago. Flower Rain the sword emperor Tich Hoa Van appeared, raising his sword high with one hand, facing everything. The only way is to go to the strongest sect in the 10 great demonic paths that he founded. The morning at Flower Rain Sword Sect, the sun is gradually rising, the clouds are gradually opening the way for the sun to rise. Bu Yunseal walked to the front of the great gate of Flower Rain Sword Sect. He stood in front of the door, constantly thinking, compared to the martial arts school of Nong Dissect, this is truly a magnificent palace. At this moment, Bu Yunseal didn't hesitate to knock on the door twice. The person inside heard this and grunted. Immediately, a tall, large man came out to open the door. At this hour, we have a guest, who are you? When he saw the person in front of him, the young man was immediately startled. You are. Without letting the other person think further, Bu Yunseal bowed and clasped his hands in front of the other person. I've come to learn the martial arts of Flower Rain Sword, he thought to himself. This person turns out to be a master of Flower Rain Sword Sect. This person then looked down. Then the other person beckoned. Follow me. Bu Yunseal heard this and looked up. The person led Bu Yunseal inside, saying as they walked, the swordplay of our sect is the most vast demonic path martial art, it will devour your time. The person began to give Bu Yunseal a general introduction. Therefore, those who came before have already completed this beginner class and moved on to the intermediate class. What reason do you have for coming here after half a month has passed? Then, Bu Yunseal continued to follow behind the other person. During the past half month, I learned martial arts at Nong Dissect. The person in front began to ask, you said Nong Dissect, could it be that you learned the beast arts? Bu Yunseal heard this and looked up. That's right, the other person thought to himself, I know this guy is talented, but no matter what, it's impossible to learn the beast path in 15 days. The person closed his eyes and composed himself. Perhaps S.A. Wu's friend found it troublesome, so he sent the general here. There's no other way. He had only thought this, but S.A. Wu said irritably, what about me? The young man pointed at himself. I am Jean Gak, I'm in charge of the beginner class, call me instructor, Flower Rain Sword Sect, beginner class instructor Jean Gak. Then the other person asked Bu Yunseal, do you really intend to learn Flower Rain Sword? It's still not too late to switch to another sect, Bu Yunseal said with a serious expression, thank you for your concern. Bu Yunseal faced Jean Gak directly, but I will learn the sword techniques of Flower Rain Sword Sect. The young man raised his foot high, okay, if that's the case. Then the young man stomped his foot hard on the ground, creating a very strong surge of energy. A scroll of paper fell from above behind the young man. Here, this is the initial moves and methods of using the Flower Rain 13 forms, take a look and cultivate from here. Bu Yunseal looked at the words on the painting. Bu Yunseal was silent, his eyes glazed over, his body completely stiff. What? Bu Yunseal pointed at the painting and asked the person in front of him, what is that used for? The young man heard this and frowned, asking in a cold voice, what are you saying, can't you even read a secret sword manual? Bu Yunseal heard this and immediately replied, I don't know. These words stunned the young man for a moment. Bu Yunseal continued to speak in a slightly worried tone, before coming here, I've never practiced swordsmanship before. The young man heard this and was stunned, completely unable to believe his ears. Jean Gak asked in surprise, so, you mean you've never learned any martial arts? Bu Yunseal scratched his head and replied, that's right. Jean Gak then suddenly remembered, that's right, his resume only said he was an embalmer. In the second trial, he didn't use any sword moves. But he can't even read a basic sword manual. But if you think about it another way, when facing the second trial, he showed keen reflexes and observation skills. When choosing the lines of text, he revealed clear eyesight, seeing through everything. In a state like a blank sheet of paper, he has already reached that level. If he is properly guided, who knows? After thinking it over, Jean Gak turned back and asked Yunseal, you can't read the sword manual, but you can read words, right? Try reading this. Yunseal listened and read, relax the whole body, supple like a flowing stream. Jean Gak also explained to him in detail, first you have to relax your whole body, which means when executing the sword technique. Need to let the body completely relax, move softly, especially must let go of the strength in the abdomen and waist. Yunseal heard that, immediately quickly bent down like an old man, is that right? Seeing this scene, Jean Gak couldn't help but open his mouth, oh my god, then secretly sighed, didn't expect that in the place to select the successor of the 10 demons, they would have to start from the basics like this. But Jean Gak quickly approached and adjusted Yunseal's posture. First, stand up straight, you need to control your mind and relax. When your body is tense, the strength will be concentrated in your abdomen, and when your abdomen is tense, your whole body will become rigid, and be supple like a flowing stream. Very quickly, Yunseal got into the correct posture and started practicing the forms. Seeing this, Jean Gak opened his mouth in an O shape again, immediately adjusted his chest to the correct posture, and understood as soon as he heard it. Then he also did not forget to praise Yunseal in his bewilderment. That's right, just do it like that, now I will teach you the 13 styles of flower dance. After that time, Jean Gak meticulously taught Yunseal. Yunseal also diligently trained according to Jean Gak's words. Even if he sweated buckets, he wouldn't give up. Jean Gak also did not forget the words of praise to encourage him. Gradually, Yunseal's sword strokes gradually became perfect. The graceful sword stroke, along with his sharp face, surprised Jean Gak one surprise to another. Indeed, this boy has great potential. After a period of diligent practice, Jean Gak told Yunseal, now imagine an enemy in front of you and execute the 13 styles of flower dance. Yunseal heard this and didn't quite understand, the enemy right in front. Jean Gak quickly explained to him, that's right, this is the test for you to enter the intermediate martial arts hall, you must execute as if there is a real enemy standing in front of you, only then will I see the sword intent in your moves. Hearing this, Yunseal was silent and thought to himself, a test, the opportunity came sooner than I thought, I must seize it well. Then he immediately stood in a fighting stance, starting to use his imagination to draw an imaginary enemy, the one he had to overcome. Quickly relying on his subconscious, a black figure appeared before his eyes. Yunseal's eyes immediately sharpened, and in an instant he drew his sword. Aiming straight at the opponent, he then quickly launched the 13 styles of flower dance, first style returning wind without measure. Jean Gak stood outside his subconscious. Seeing him launch the move so powerfully, he was also surprised. Immediately after that, Yunseal continued to launch the move, 3 styles of flower dance, third style flowing clouds and mist. Jean Gak was completely stunned at this moment. Is that the 13 styles of flower dance? Flowing clouds and mist is originally a soft and flexible sword move, which must be executed gently, gracefully like drifting clouds and spreading mist. But the flowing clouds and mist that this boy executes contains a sharp murderous aura. Jean Gak secretly judged, could it be that he deliberately changed the move, the freedom to change the sword moves of a sword art passed down through generations, only outstanding grandmasters can do. Moreover, the sword move carries a sharp murderous aura as if dealing with an enemy who killed his parents or master. The swordplay of the sect is considered the orthodox path and the demonic path. What is the secret behind such cruel moves? But even Yunseal himself was no less bewildered after launching the move. This felt like his hands naturally changed the sword path. He wondered if it was because the more he executed the 13 styles of flower dance with the way of the beast, the more obvious the feeling of the way of the beast became. Do the feeling of the way of the beast and the sword path of the flower dance sword harmonize with each other? But if I put the instinct of the way of the beast into the sword path of the flower dance sword, I will be eliminated. Changing the sword moves passed down through generations is unacceptable. At this moment, suddenly Yunseal's eyes flashed with murderous intent again. He stared at the black shadow he created with hatred. That person, the murderer who killed grandfather. At this moment, his eyes became dull, as if he had been drawn into his own imagination. He gritted his teeth, jumped up, dashed towards the opponent, 13 forms of flower rain, 7th form 4 turns. Charging towards the opponent, 13 styles of flower dance, 7th style flipping the 4 Cs, but then he quickly realized. Too fast. Faster than any opponent I've ever met. The opponent also quickly swung his sword towards him. He barely avoided a sword slash, he can't give him a chance to escape. Immediately after that, Yunseal firmly grasped the sword in his hand, concentrating all the remaining moves, all at once. But the opponent quickly struck him a fatal blow. Even he himself could not react in time. Only saw the shadows of his 2 arms falling off, accompanied by the mournful cries of the cuckoo. But luckily, it was all just an illusion. Yunseal escaped from his imaginary world, drenched in sweat. His hands trembled so much that he couldn't hold the sword firmly. Jean Gak, seeing this, guessed the result, he had finally lost. However, he then smiled with satisfaction, but then he told Yunseal that he passed. Yunseal, hearing this, hadn't even had time to react when Jean Gak continued, the test in the beginner's class is to assess whether you have mastered the basic swordsmanship, and whether you can execute the Hoa Vu Thap Tam Tuk in actual combat or not. And you have excellently completed both of those things. Then Jean Gak took the sword and returned it to Yunseal. He also didn't forget to praise him. Your Hoa Vu Thap Tam Tuk is really impressive, you can advance to the intermediate class. Hearing this, Yunseal felt extremely grateful. The head instructor taught someone who knew absolutely nothing about swordsmanship. It must have been very troublesome, yet he patiently guided him bit by bit. Thinking this, Yunseal immediately bowed to Jean Gak. Thank you for your time. Jean Gak also reminded him, from now on, strive to improve even more. Suddenly, his voice lowered, but, your sword has too much killing intent, be careful, or it will devour you. Yunseal seemed to realize this as well. He bowed to Jean Gak again and left. Jean Gak then understood, now I understand, he has mastered the wild beast path in just half a month. Perhaps because his speed of comprehension is too fast, so. The time to advance to the Intermediate Martial Arts Center is faster than expected. Initially, he was worried, not knowing if he would be strong enough to pass, but now he can confirm it. Even the instructor of the intermediate class, as Jean Gak was pondering. Yunseal had arrived at the intermediate class. As soon as he opened the door, a sharp voice rang out, I don't know who you are, but this place is enough for you, leave. The one who spoke was Tien Van Quang, the head instructor of the Hoa Vu Sword Sex Intermediate Martial Arts Center. Jean Gak also affirmed confidently, in the end, he will be subdued by Byuk Yunseal.